Hello ladies and gentlemen, Ryan here and welcome back to another Hands Down DFS video. It's already week 8, feels like the NFL season is flying by, but got some more content coming up for you guys as always, and we're going to start off the week with our week 8 DraftKings main slate, stars and darts. We're going to go through each position on the DraftKings main slate as I mentioned and kind of look at who I like paying up for and who I like paying down for. So starting off with the QBs, we're going to start off right at the top, Josh Allen at $8,100. He's not going to be a crazy low-owned GPP flyer this week, but Josh Allen has played well against Miami's defenses in his career, played well against some good Miami defenses in his career, and this year Miami's defense has just been terrible. The Bills did win 35-0 week 2, as you see here, and Josh Allen didn't do much, only completed 17 passes, only rushed a handful of times. 18 DK points, so nothing too special, but that was also the week Tua got injured early in the game, put a damper on the Dolphins, kind of got blown out. And despite being 0-2 in the last 2 weeks, the Dolphins have looked pretty decent, granted against a couple weaker opponents in Jacksonville and Atlanta. But still, they've shown that they can keep the game close. So as a Dolphins fan, I'm hoping that's the case here. I'm hoping they can keep the game within 2 scores. And for DFS purposes, I think that's going to work for Josh Allen. They're allowing the fewest points per game on the ground to QBs. But besides Josh Allen, the Dolphins have played Derek Carr, Tom Brady, Carson Wentz, Mac Jones, etc. Just not guys who run the ball very much. But, from points off purely passing, the Dolphins are allowing the second most points per game. So I think Josh Allen's upside with the arm is there. Hopefully, those few rushes he gets will just be a bonus. And, I guess there is the possibility that Miami's defense, which has been terrible against the run, it just leads to another Moss Singletary game. But I'm really hoping Josh Allen at 8,100 can just kind of keep putting up these 30-plus point performances as he has a few times this season. I think he can do it here against Miami. So he's my star for quarterback. For my dart, I'm going with Teddy Bridgewater down at 5,400 against the Washington football team. I just mentioned how Miami is allowing the second most DraftKings points per game through the air. The Washington football team is the team that's worse than them. They're allowing the most points per game through the air. I think Teddy Bridgewater is a very safe floor play this week. He's probably someone I'm going to lean on in cash games a lot, but I also think he's playable in GPPs just because he's so cheap. Probably won't be very high owned. I'm sure he'll get some ownership, but shouldn't be sky high. And you can make some pretty cheap stacks with him, with some also lesser owned guys. He's thrown at least 2 touchdowns in each of the last 3 weeks and is averaging 40 passing attempts per game. Washington football team is the 8th best team against the run this season. And now the Broncos are getting Jerry Jeudy back. He may be getting Jerry Jeudy back. He has been cleared for practice and is likely coming off the IR. But whether he plays or not, that's still up in the air. But regardless, Washington's good against the run. If Judy's back, even if he's not, it's going to be a very pass-heavy game for Teddy Bridgewater, I'm hoping. So, I think this is a matchup between two teams whose defenses are better on paper than I think they have been this year in actuality. So I think this game could kind of low-key be a shootout, like a 50-point game where it's like 27-21 or something like that. Teddy throws at least 2, maybe 3 touchdowns. Hopefully he can keep those interceptions that he's had the past few weeks to a minimum. Preferably 0, that would be great. But, if so, at 5,400, Teddy Bridgewater is just a very safe play. On to running backs. For my star over the week, I'm going to go with Jonathan Taylor here at 7,200. It took him a few weeks to get going, but Jonathan Taylor's just been money over the last 4 weeks, including in that rainy Sunday Night Football game last week. He's averaged 28 DraftKings points over his last 4 games, but has still yet to see over 20 carries. The Titans have been atrocious against the pass, don't get me wrong, except for last week, where apparently they just shut Mahomes down and gave him absolutely nothing. But I think that kind of plays into that 11th opponent-ranked defense that we see here. I don't think they're actually that good. In fact, they aren't that good. The Titans are actually 6th worst in the league in yards per carry. So if Taylor can manage that 16 to 20 touch volume he's been getting this season, he should have no problem breaking 100 yards again like he has the past couple weeks. He also has a reception every game he's played this season, so that's just a little added bonus for you. It is still too early for ownership projections to be out, but I imagine he won't be as high owned as I think he should be. I don't think this Tennessee team is as dominant on the ground as DraftKings stats, OPRK say they are. So really like Jonathan Taylor this week. For my dart play, I'm going to go with the Eagles backup, who may be the starter this week. We'll see. But Kenneth Gainwell. Might be a more obvious dart throw depending on Miles Sanders' status, because he did leave the game early this week in week 7. But, I like Gainwell regardless. Playing running backs versus Detroit is usually just a good idea. And while, it obviously didn't pan out last week for Darrell Henderson, who was just super chalky and didn't do much, Gainwell is averaging 4.4 targets per game, and that's the second most targeted player on the Eagles this season. And even though he just caught his first touchdown last week through the air, he does have 20% of the Eagles' red zone targets as well. So he's trailing Goddard by just 1, in fact. And the reason I keep bringing up his targets against Detroit is because the Lions are allowing 2.66 points per target to running backs this season. So just using the averages that we're talking about, 2.66 points per target on about 4.3 targets. Gainwell, that should give him about a 11.7 point average just in receiving. Throw in the fact that Sanders is week to week, might not play, and we'll see Gainwell split carries with Boston Scott. Maybe he gets 8 carries on the ground. If he can get 5 yards a carry, might be pushing it a little, but still somewhere around there, get an extra 4 or 5 points on the ground. You're talking about 15 points for Gainesville, or about 3x value of this price. So Scotty did mention last week, if you listen to any of our videos, how the Eagles fans are just getting real sick and tired of not giving the ball to their running backs. And last week they did run the 6th most rushing plays in the league. Granted, 13 of them were Jalen Hurts. So, but even there, then they ran the most plays to running backs they've run since week 1 this season. So I think things are looking up for the Eagles' running game, and I think Gainwell could be a good play this week, regardless of Miles Sanders' status. Before we move on over to wide receivers, I just want to thank you guys for all the support you've given us through the first 7 weeks of this season and into this week. And I wanted to mention Daily Grind Fantasy. We've kind of joined them as an affiliate partner and affiliate content creator with them. And if you haven't heard of them, go check them out. They offer great ownership projections, cheat sheet, DraftKings, FanDuel, Yahoo point projections for every sport, whether it's NFL, as we're doing here. They also have NBA, MLB, even esports. Basically any sport you can think of, they've got projections on. And they've just been a great resource for us. They have a premium Discord, which is just really active, and it's a great community over there. And you can kind of, bounce ideas off each other, get some thoughts on some plays during the week. And if you sign up with them using the code Hands Down, you'll get access to all that. You'll get their premium Discord. You'll get all their projections, their ownership projections that you can, upload to a CSV. And then, the added bonus is when you sign up through their best value, their $30 plan, they give you $20 to use towards Fantasy Cruncher, which if you haven't used Fantasy Cruncher, highly recommend it. They're a great optimizer. You can basically put in any inputs you want in there. You can upload Daily Grind's projections right into there and run some optimal lineups, and it's a great way to, if you're MME in contests, it's what you need to do to win. So go check them out. Tell them we sent you. Use the code Hands Down, or just click the link in the description. And not only will you get all that stuff, not only will you get the $20 to use towards Fantasy Cruncher, but you also get $5 off your first month. So just a great value there. So go check them out. So on to wide receivers. We're going to start with Chris Godwin for Tampa Bay. And I've just learned to stop betting against Tom Brady. I never like using him because I get scared of blowouts, and he doesn't really have high yardage games. But so I never think to play the Bucs receivers. Just frankly, there's too many of them that he can throw to. But week after week, one or even 2 of them go off, and they prove me wrong. So last week it was both Evans and Godwin. They both had great games. Coming up, the Bucs are facing a Saints rushing defense that's second best in the league. It's going to force Brady to throw the ball a lot to move the ball down the field. And I'm assuming Marshawn Lattimore is going to be lined up on Mike Evans, and we should get a Chris Godwin game here. He's just too cheap at this price considering the ceiling he had. We saw 28 points last game, and we saw even last year he was reaching 30-plus points. So I think this is just too cheap for a ceiling. And, talking about cheap, also $6,100, you have Antonio Brown, who is questionable. if he plays, I think he's also very cheap for the ceiling he provides. So really like those two guys on the Bucks, leading Godwin though. And for my second star wide receiver, we're going to do a couple of them since you're playing a few wide receivers in your lineups. But Deebo Samuel, it was just an ugly, wet Sunday Night Football game in Week 7, and somehow Deebo still managed 100 yards and a touchdown, 25 DK points. And like I mentioned with both Godwin and Evans, they had huge games against the Bears. That's who San Francisco's facing off this week. Deebo is essentially the only pass catcher on the team. He's got a 35% target share, which is insane. And he's at the highest price that he has been all season, but I kind of think that helps drive some ownership away from him being all the way up here at $7,400. So really like Deebo this week. For my two darts, I mentioned him earlier, but I'm going to start out with a risky play and go Jerry Jeudy at 4,900. I don't know what his status is going to be on Sunday. If he plays in general, and if he does play, is he going to be at full capacity? We'll have to wait and see. He's expected to be released off IR. I mean, he's supposed to practice, so things are looking positive. But if he does come back, it's just a great matchup to come back to. Like we mentioned, Washington's defense has been league worst against passing, so really like him here. If he doesn't get injured in Week 1, he's probably competing with Sutton, possibly overtaking him for the number one wide receiver on the Broncos. And again, like I mentioned with Teddy Bridgewater, the ownership's going to be low on these Broncos wide receivers, as they always are. And I think it's just a cheap GPP stack option. So like Jerry Jeudy this week if he does play. And then my other wide receiver dart, another guy coming off injury, Traquan Smith for the Saints at 3,900. Plays first game of the season, last Monday Night Football. Didn't do much with it, just 3 targets, 1 catch, but really anyone outside of Kamara didn't do anything that game. So really can't read too much into that. Smith did still see the second most targets amongst the New Orleans wide receivers and play the second most snaps. So now going against Tampa Bay's strong run defense and weak pass defense, this could be a big revenge game. Jameis Winston facing the Bucs for the first time as the Saints starting quarterback, looking to get the best of Tom Brady. He could be going to the air a lot. It's going to have to be, even Alvin Kamara, one of the best running backs in the league. He did struggle on the ground last week against Seattle, so it's going to be Jameis Winston throwing the ball, whether it is to Kamara or Traquan Smith or Marquez Callaway. I think Jameis is going to be going to the air a lot, so I like Traquan Smith for that reason. Jumping on over to close out with tight ends. My high-priced tight end, my star that I like is Mike Gesicki. And I don't think... Obviously, Kyle Pitts probably has the highest ceiling as the best tight end on the slate, but I think Mike Gesicki is going to have very little ownership. Is averaging 22 DraftKings points in the 2 games since Tua has been back from that rib injury. And he doesn't have the best matchup against a tough Bills defense. You see here, 8th against tight ends. But, they're the number 1 ranked team against quarterbacks, the number 2 ranked team against wide receivers, number 3 ranked team against running backs. So essentially number 8 is it's a cupcake matchup, right? Mike Gesicki is just going to be all over them. No, I don't think he's going to be having a massive 40-point game, but I think Tua's getting comfortable with him. Gesicki's being used in the offense a lot more than he was earlier in the season. And I think it is going to be a spot where if the Dolphins want to have even a chance of keeping this game not ugly, I'm not even going to say close, but like within 2 scores, within like 17 points, it's going to be a lot of going to the air to Gesicki. So, he's got around a 20% target share this season. So I think he could be a good GPP option. And then to close out this video, our dart tight end is going to be the new man in Jacksonville. I say new, I guess this will be his 3rd week playing there, but Dan Arnold at 2,800. His price dropped a couple $100 since the Week 6 matchup in London versus the Dolphins, but I think this is a really enticing price. It's the lowest he's been, second lowest he's been this season. But he has been on the field for about 70% of offensive snaps since being traded to the Jags. And he has 15 targets over his last 2 games, which accounts for about a little over 20% of Trevor Lawrence's targets. The good news is when, in being on the Jags, is that the game script is always going to be in his favor. The Jags likely continue to play from behind the entire season, even against a Geno Smith-led Seahawks team that just didn't look very good and hasn't looked very good the last couple of weeks. But I still think, they get up early and Lawrence is playing from behind. Lawrence is averaging throwing the ball 36 times a game this season. So if Arnold can consistently get the 18 to 20% target share he has been getting, That's 6 to 7 targets a game for a guy that's less than $3,000, which just makes him an absolutely smash spot. So really like Dan Arnold as my dart tight end. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for the rest of our Week 8 content. Can't believe it's already Week 8. I know I already said that, but that's just crazy. And follow us on Twitter at Hands Down DFS just to stay up to date on whatever the content we have coming out is, and just DFS news as it comes out. So follow us there. Again, click the link in the description and check out Daily Grind Fantasy and just get access to all of that great content they have over there. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys later in the week.